Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Nadex Morning Analysis. Today is February 18th. It is a Thursday, and it is a chilly day here in Chicago, and I know that people are still dealing with that around the United States. Here's what we got. Actually, before we jump into it, my name is Todd Rich. I am with Nadex. With me is Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. Brian and I are going to talk about 3 hot spots to look at in the markets today. Before Brian and I do that, I need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Excuse me. We're doing this for your education. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. Very important. So here's what we're going to talk about today. Let me first turn this off, and we could probably do this. And that's actually what we're going to talk about first. And one, we're going to talk about equity markets. Oh, yeah, there we go. One, we're going to talk about equity markets. We're seeing a soft open here. Unemployment claims came in. Unemployment claims were a little higher than expected. Unemployment claims can be volatile week to week, but and we've been seeing them decline. We saw a little pop this past week. Not anything to be terrified about. It just means the recovery is going to take a little bit longer. I mean, we didn't think this was going to happen overnight. But with that, we're seeing right now in the futures markets, the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P each down about 0.5%. NASDAQ, the tech stocks taking the brunt of it, down about 1%. We are going to jump into the NASDAQ. We're also going to talk about crude oil today because we've got an important economic release, the inventory numbers. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about opportunities in oil. And then I know Brian wants to talk a little bit about the strength of the pound, the weakness of the dollar. Overnight. So it's really a dollar story. But let's go ahead. Brian, you want to start us with what we're seeing in equities? And I'm going to bring up the platform and we can then probably talk about NASDAQ.
Sure. Overnight Q. Yep. So yesterday, guys, I hope you guys can see my little.
I apologize. I just
there you go.
clicked the wrong
Hopefully
button.
you guys can see my little yellow dot. Let me make it a little bigger for you guys. There we go. See my yellow dot moving here on the right-hand side. So yes, we're sitting back in this area. And we talked about this green level, assuming that this level was going to break the way that it chopped through. And we mentioned 13,552 as being a potential reversal area. It was clean tested before, or had been only tested one time. We had buyers stepping in. Actually, right around that 10:30, 11 o'clock time frame, again, I said look for reversal. We got a nice rally up, and then last night at about 7 o'clock, back down again. The reason why that is important is not necessarily to take longs off this level, but this level has now been hit 3, potentially 4 times, depending on how you're counting it. That's in the territory where we're expecting some type of a break. So right now, I'm kind of looking for a continuation down on this one. For me, again, remember, ECN-based data, so it's a little bit off as far as the numbers go. But it's down 13,527. If you want to draw it in your own chart, you guys can see that there was a weird kind of crazy kind of drop base and then kind of push around back on the 5th of February. If you guys are looking to get the same area that I'm talking about. But I do see a nice thing I like about this one is we do have a push that goes lower. Again, I'm always looking to make sure that I have at least 1 to 3 risk to reward space. You can see down here under the 13,446. It would be the level where the next opposing people, basically the demand zone is coming in. The reason why I like this trade right now is if we go back, and that's why I was looking at daily effects as well. Again, one of the nice things I like about daily effects is it gives us kind of what the consumer sentiment is. Right now, just in general, Wall Street, because it's right up top, looks like 71% of people are net short. So it looks like the negative has creeped back into the market. So again, combining the negativity with an unemployment claim number that is, decently higher, about 90,000 higher than what we expected. Again, first-time claims, not necessarily a good sign. Mention is good, but the unemployment claims number there, with a level that's been hit 3 or 4 times, it's all kind of locked. And again, what we could look for is a Harry Potter break, a push down to the 13,446, and then around 10:30, could we have a morning reversal? Yeah, that would be the time and the candles would look like, and the setup would look like for some type of reversal. So a short and then a long possibility here.
All right. I do want to jump over to the Nadex platform and let's take a look at it. We're going to start off with the binary options. This is we can see that clearly Nasdaq was having a nice, as well as all the other equity indices, having a nice bull run, but it's been in the this week. I mean, you can see we've turned. Sentiment has turned a little bit. We are in earnings season, so people are paying a lot of attention to that. And here's that level that the Brian was talking about. It's roughly that 13,530-ish level. And we know it was a level before, and this is also something that Brian's talked about. You know, it tested it once back here and did a little Harry Potter off of it. Here's a second time where it tested it. Here's a third time. Here is that fourth time we're testing it. And often that's where you see it not bounce. Not to say that it won't, but it also is close to a Fibonacci level. We dropped some fibs in. I dropped some fibs in here, and you can see there's actually a retracement level that's just below this level. So it becomes a little interesting to see what's going to happen here. When Brian talks about a Harry Potter trade, I'm actually going to try to draw here for you on what you may want to do. Now, again, if you think it's going to break down, there's ways to sell these binary options. Think, if it's going to go lower, the probabilities of it settling above that number are going to go down. In fact, you could even, I want to try to get it down here. There's ways to play this from the short side. There's just too many to show in here. But what I would like to do, here's what a Harry Potter would look like. Just so when, I happen to really like this. This is something that I borrow from Brian because I'm a monster fan of Harry Potter, and it looks like a lightning bolt.
Right.
So
it is. I couldn't come up with a better name. It was that or like Tampa Bay or like that, but I figured people would get offended. So everybody loves Harry Potter. So
yeah,
I could say the Charger, the Tampa Bay. I figured not everybody gets sports analogies, but everybody knows Harry Potter.
Everyone knows Harry Potter. Here's what it would look like. It would come down through. That would be the first thing. So we would break the level that we're looking at right here around this 15,530. Now the question is you got to wait for that confirmation, and what you would end up seeing is it bounce back higher to test this level, and then it would break down. That would be your confirmation trade, as you saw it come back down, and that would be an opportunity to go short if we think it's going to break through this level. You don't necessarily do it the first time it breaks through. You wait for it to come back, touch again, and then go. And that's why it's Harry Potter. It looks like a lightning bolt. So I like to teach. I think this is a great lesson. This is something to look at today, because not only is it a level where we've seen buyers step in the NASDAQ before, but it's testing it for the fourth time. It's a Fibonacci level, which if I backed it up, I can even tell you which percent. It's the 38.2, 38 points, whatever, whichever one it is, fib level. So this is an interesting trade setup. And there's now, could it bounce and go higher? Of course. So that's the beauty of Nadex binary options is everything is limited risk, limited reward. You know what you could potentially lose or potentially make getting into every trade. But if one sets up and there's an opportunity, this is something to potentially look at today, NASDAQ. All right, number two. I said we were going to talk about oil. We have an oil inventory report, 11 a.m. Eastern. So, Brian, let me flip it over to you and let's talk a little bit about oil.
Sure. First things first, whenever we talk about any of the commodities, we need to make sure that we keep the focus on the dollar index. Okay. As of yesterday, and again, we were sitting here yesterday, we had just an absolutely huge monster run to the top side. Now, again, whenever you have those emotional moves, we always talk about a retracement, and magically, the top of this box is where we were yesterday, and the bottom is where we are today. So you can see all that strong dollar move led to a big push down. Now, again, that directly relates over into the different commodities as well as some of the currencies. So you're seeing that oil is kind of pulled back a little bit as well. Now, here's the oil inventory reports today. The forecast is coming in a little bit light, minus 2.1 million. Now, obviously, everything with the freeze and Texas being, basically completely frozen over, this may be a little bit interesting of a number. Not only today, but also next week as well. I don't know that they're going to be 100% correct on this one. And again, looking back through history, they're typically not. This is the primate, the small primate throwing the dart forecast here. I expect this to be off today. Now, reason why I wanted to pull up the oil chart on this one, and again, don't forget, natural gas is also a little bit higher. Natural 1030 this morning, so it's a kind of a double whammy. Here's the European session in this blue box. Okay, now, as you can see from the start of it, we had a little bit of a push down to 61 and then pulled right back up again. In recent weeks, we've seen a lot of movement in the European session off of kind of where it was going to go ahead of time. Right now, it looks like it's more set up for some. Did push down and rallied right back up again. And remember, if you want to sell something, do you want it at a higher price or a lower price? And as you buy it, what do? We don't buy high and sell low. No, we buy low and sell high. So this type of position a lot of times leads us to somewhat of a retracement. Now, could it crash all the way back down into the 60 range? Sure, it could. Remember, the oil inventory report typically responsible for $1 to $1.50 worth of movement on a decent size mist. That's last week when we saw it. That's what we tend to get on it. Again, it's kind of setting up, and again, I'm going to move this box around a little bit just to kind of show you guys. We have a little area of basing up here, and again, we keep kind of banging our head against it. So, that level's right around this 61.50 level. And again, we got to see what the open looks like when the U.S. retail trader steps in. Typically, crude oil is at 10:30. Today it's at 11. And again, this could be a double whammy because natural gas comes in right ahead, right before that. And natural gas is also expected to have a pretty big down, as far as storage goes. So, lot of stuff in the news about energy, heating, everything else. Pipes being frozen, pipes breaking. So it could be a pretty wild ride today. So again, I think Nadex is the perfect opportunity to be able to trade that one, particularly with week. It just adds more fuel to fire.
This is where Nadex products with their defined risk, defined reward. This is oil, and these are our call spreads. These are the call spreads for today, and this is what's interesting. Now, when you look at a call spread chart, you see that shaded area. That's the range for the call spread. Now, what if you wanted to go long or short oil? What are you looking to do in a defined risk, defined reward way? We actually have the call spreads around it, and that's what's kind of fascinating is where the levels are lining up with the call spreads right now. If you were looking to go long oil, because it starts moving higher by buying one of these. I mean, this particular call spread, you can see we're at the bottom of the range. Your risk reward is pretty favorable if it rallies. Now, if it goes against you, your risk is very defined. Your risk is very defined. Your reward potential, nice upside potential. Now, on the flip side, if you thought oil were going to go lower, you'd simply choose a different call spread, right? And you can go short it, right? Now you can see where you would need oil. And again, here you go short oil at this level. And it's interesting because it's 61.50, which is right where we are right now. So you can either go long or short oil with a call spread at that 61.50 level, which is roughly where we are. There is a bit of a premium if you sell or if you buy, but your risk is limited. You've got some upside. So I would say with the oil inventory reports coming out at 11 a.m. Eastern, if you wanted to go longer short oil, taking a look at these call spreads would be one way to potentially play this. I mean, I don't know which way it's going to go, but you can do so in a very clean, defined risk, defined reward way. And unlike a knockout, where if it touches that boundary, you're knocked out of the trade. With a call spread, you've got some time to be right. And they're just lined up really well for an opportunity today for you to pick a direction in a defined risk, defined reward way. All right, so that's a little lesson on the call spreads on oil today. Again, 11 a.m. Eastern. Keep an eye on that. Let's do one more. I know that, Brian, you mentioned the dollar. Why don't you give us a little bit about the dollar before we call it a day and let everyone get ready for the U.S. Equity Open?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm going to kind of mix it up just a little bit, just because we did talk about it. As I said, a lot. I'm just going to add one quick thing in here. This is natural gas as well. For those of you that don't know, you can also trade natural gas. Natural gas has call spreads that you get 2-hour basis. Being a 10:30 release this morning for the news, this is also setting up for a potential kind of boom or bust kind of position. What I would do is when we get a little bit closer, maybe wait till 10:15, drop this down to a 30-minute chart, and actually maybe even a little bit lower, maybe like a 10 or 15-minute chart. See if price rallied back or collapsed into kind of, whether down in this level here, right? Or looking for something a little bit more up top. In either of these two areas, again, there is actually 2-hour call spreads in both of those levels because it comes in at 3.3 and 3.1 respectively. So again, maybe a small news trade. As far as the pound, real quick, as you can see, this is the European session. I mention it all the time that the European session provides lots and lots of opportunity. This was a 145 pip move in one direction with no pullbacks. And now we're finally getting the U.S. trader to step in. So remember, large emotional move. We've had a zone up here. We've talked about the zone up here in 39.91. We're super close. We missed it by a total of 4 pips. 4 pips total on my charts. I'd be looking for a retrace. Again, we saw very strong dollar yesterday. Today, it's extremely weak dollar. The pound's not in place. And remember, we do have this one trade set up lower when we finally break through that level that we are looking for a Harry Potter. Now, again, today, so we'll cover this tomorrow. But I'd be looking for, a rollover retracement back to the downside, particularly with that, again, the Pfizer data. So
excellent.
Yesterday.
So just a quick recap. We went over U.S. equities. Nasdaq taking the brunt of it this morning, down over 1%. It looked for an opportunity if for it to potentially break through that 13,530-ish level. Wait for that confirm. Might trade lower, but that 15,530 is an important level. 2, oil inventories, 11 a.m. Eastern, and you've got some Nadex call spreads right there where you can try to look for an opportunity to go either long or short based upon how that report comes out in a defined risk, defined reward way. Also, we've got Nat Gas coming out a half hour before that, so certainly something else to consider. And then we've seen weakness in the dollar. You saw that play out in the pound, emotional move up, potential rollover in the U.S. session. Keep an eye on the pound dollar. With that, if you got any questions for Nadex, email us, please, customerservice@nadex.com. Any questions for Brian, you can email him at support@keeptradingsimple.com. And I know that he is very accessible and loves engaging with you guys. If you could, please give us a review, trustpilot.com/review/nadex.com. If you got a few minutes, it would be greatly appreciated. With that, want to let everyone get ready for the U.S. Equity Open here in 12 minutes. Brian and I will be back tomorrow morning, so you can catch us again tomorrow morning. And with that, good luck in the markets, everyone.